I tell you now, as I have told countless others who have sat where you sit tonight, that the very idea that you must do something external to receive what you desire is the greatest lie ever perpetuated upon humanity. It is this lie that keeps you running on the hamster wheel of endless action, forever chasing, forever seeking, forever believing that your good lies somewhere outside of you, waiting to be earned through struggle and toil. Tonight, I want to shatter that illusion completely. I want to show you that everything you have ever desired, everything you have ever dreamed of, every state of being you have ever longed to experience already exists within you at this very moment. Not as a potential, not as a possibility, but as an absolute reality waiting to be claimed through the simple act of assumption. You see, most of you have been conditioned to believe that the world you perceive with your senses is the cause of your experiences. You look at your bank account and say, I am poor because I see emptiness there. You look at your relationships and say, I am unloved because I see evidence of rejection. You look at your circumstances and say, I am limited because these walls confine me. But I tell you that you have it completely backwards. The world you see is not the cause of anything. It is merely the shadow cast by your own consciousness, the external reflection of your internal states. Your bank account is empty because you have assumed the feeling of poverty. Your relationships are troubled because you have assumed the feeling of being unloved. Your circumstances are limited because you have assumed the feeling of limitation. The external world is nothing more than a mirror, faithfully reflecting back to you the assumptions you hold to be true about yourself. This is why I can stand before you tonight and declare with absolute certainty that you need do nothing external to change your world. The work, if we can even call it work, is entirely internal. It is the work of changing your assumptions, of revising your concept of self, of daring to assume that you are already the person you wish to become, already living in the state you wish to experience. But before we go further, let me address the elephant in the room. When I say do nothing, I do not mean that you should become passive, lazy, or indifferent to life. What I mean is that you should cease all frantic action that stems from the belief that your good is separate from you. Stop chasing. Stop seeking. Stop trying to make things happen through force and manipulation. Instead, learn to live from the assumption that what you desire is already yours, and watch as the external world rearranges itself to match this inner conviction. The ancient teaching tells us that God's name is I am, and that this sacred name dwells within each of us. When you say I am, you are speaking from the very throne of creation itself. You are not describing what you appear to be in the world of shadows. You are declaring what you choose to be in the realm of reality. Every time you complete the sentence I am with anything, you are either claiming your divinity or denying it. When you say I am wealthy, you are not making a statement about your bank account. You are assuming the feeling of wealth, the consciousness of abundance, the very essence of prosperity itself. When you say I am loved, you are not referring to how others treat you. You are claiming the state of being beloved, the consciousness of worthiness, the very feeling of love fulfilled. When you say I am free, you are not describing your external circumstances. You are assuming the state of freedom, the consciousness of liberation, the very essence of unbound possibility. Now, here is where most people stumble. They think that assuming these states means pretending or lying to themselves. They believe they must somehow convince themselves that their external circumstances have changed when they clearly haven't. But this is not what I'm teaching at all. I'm not asking you to deny what your senses report. I'm asking you to recognize that what your senses report is simply the outpicturing of yesterday's assumptions, and that you have the power to plant new assumptions that will create new experiences. Think of it this way. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You don't worry and fret and wonder if it will grow. You simply trust that the seed contains within itself everything necessary for its full expression, and you go about your life knowing that in due time you will see the harvest. The same principle applies to your assumptions. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you have planted the seed of experience in the fertile soil of consciousness. You don't need to help it grow. You don't need to manipulate circumstances to make it happen. You simply need to maintain the assumption and trust that it contains within itself everything necessary for its full manifestation. But let me be even more specific about what I mean by doing nothing. I mean that you cease all action that comes from a sense of lack, limitation, or separation from your desire. When you feel compelled to act from desperation, from fear that your desire won't come to pass, from a sense that you must make something happen, this is the action I'm telling you to cease. This kind of action actually pushes you away from you because it springs from the assumption that you don't already have what you want. Instead, the only action you should take is action that flows naturally from the assumption that you already are what you wish to be. If you have assumed the feeling of wealth and an investment opportunity presents itself, you might feel moved to investigate it, not from a desperate need to become wealthy, but from the natural curiosity of someone who already is wealthy. If you have assumed the feeling of being loved and someone attractive enters your life, you might feel moved to engage with them, not from a desperate need to find love, but from the natural confidence of someone who already knows they are beloved. You see the difference? One type of action comes from lack and actually reinforces the very state you're trying to escape. The other type of action comes from fulfillment and serves to externalize the state you have already claimed internally. The first type of action is what I'm telling you to cease. The second type of action will happen naturally and effortlessly once you've truly assumed your desired state. Now, let me share with you the secret that makes all of this possible. Every state of consciousness, every possible experience, every conceivable condition already exists in what I call the infinite states of being. Poverty exists as a state. Wealth exists as a state. Sickness exists as a state. Health exists as a state. Loneliness exists as a state. Love exists as a state. They all exist simultaneously, and you move between them not through external action, but through the simple act of assumption. Right now, as I speak these words, there is a version of you that is wealthy beyond measure. There is a version of you that is perfectly healthy. There is a version of you that is deeply loved and cherished. There is a version of you that is free from every limitation you currently experience. These are not fantasies or wishful thinking. These are actual states of being that exist in the realm of infinite possibility. The question is not whether these states exist, they do. The question is not whether you deserve to experience them, you do. The question is not whether it's possible for you to access them, it is. The only question is, which state will you choose to assume? Which version of yourself will you choose to be? And here's the beautiful part. The moment you assume a state, you become it. Not in some future time, not when conditions are right, not when you've done enough or worked hard enough or proven yourself worthy. Right now, in this very moment, as you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you become the person who already has what you desire. The external world may take some time to catch up and reflect this new assumption. But in the realm of consciousness, which is the only realm that truly matters, the transformation is instantaneous. This is why I can tell you to do nothing after this and watch how everything falls into place. Because once you've truly assumed your desired state, once you've claimed your good in consciousness, the entire universe must rearrange itself to match your assumption. This is not magic or wishful thinking. This is the fundamental law of consciousness, the very principle upon which all creation operates. But I must warn you about something. Your rational mind will resist this teaching with everything it has. It will tell you that you're being foolish, that you're living in a fantasy, that you need to be realistic about your situation. It will point to your current circumstances as evidence that your assumptions don't work. It will remind you of past failures and convince you that this time will be no different. This resistance is natural and expected. Your rational mind has been trained to believe in the reality of the external world, to put its faith in what can be seen and touched and measured. But I'm asking you to put your faith in something far more substantial, the creative power of your own consciousness. I am asking you to recognize that what you call reality is nothing more than the externalization of beliefs and assumptions you've held for so long that you've forgotten you chose them. When doubt arises, and it will, don't fight it. Don't try to convince yourself that your desire is already manifested when all evidence seems to suggest otherwise. Instead, simply return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Assume the state you wish to experience and rest in that assumption. Remember that feelings are the language of the subconscious mind, and it is through feeling that all transformation takes place. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Suppose you desire to be financially free. Instead of focusing on how you might achieve this freedom, instead of making plans and taking action from a place of financial lack, you would begin by assuming the feeling of already being financially free. You would sit quietly and imagine what it would feel like to have complete financial security. Not what you would do with the money, not what you would buy, but the actual feeling of financial freedom itself. How would you feel if you never had to worry about money again? How would you feel if you could make any purchase without concern for the cost? How would you feel if you had complete control over your time because you weren't bound by financial necessity? Capture that feeling, embody it, live in it. Make it as real and natural as the feeling of being yourself, because that's exactly what it is. It's the feeling of being the version of yourself that already has financial freedom. Once you've assumed this feeling, once you've made it natural and familiar, you do nothing else. You don't chase opportunities. You don't force yourself to work harder. You don't try to manipulate circumstances. You simply live from the assumption that you are already financially free. And you allow the external world to conform to this inner conviction. This doesn't mean you become passive or lazy. It means that any action you take comes from the feeling of already having what you desire, rather than from the desperate need to get it. If opportunities present themselves, you evaluate them from the consciousness of wealth, not from the consciousness of lack. If inspiration strikes you to pursue a particular path, you follow it from the confidence of someone who already has financial freedom, not from the fear of someone who desperately needs it. The same principle applies to every area of your life. If you desire love, assume the feeling of being loved. If you desire health, assume the feeling of perfect vitality. If you desire success, assume the feeling of having already achieved your goals. In each case, you're not trying to get something you don't have. You're claiming something that already exists within the infinite states of being. Now, I want to address something that troubles many people when they first encounter this teaching. They ask if everything already exists, if all states are already available, then why do we experience lack and limitation at all? Why isn't everyone already living in their desired state? The answer is simple, because most people don't know that they have the power to choose their state. They believe they are victims of circumstance, that their experiences are determined by external forces beyond their control. They look at their current situation and assume it's permanent, that it defines who they are and what's possible for them. But you are not most people. You are here tonight because something within you recognizes the truth of what I'm sharing. You sense that there's more to life than what you've been experiencing. You feel the stirring of a power within you that is capable of transforming every aspect of your existence. That power is your imagination, your ability to assume any state you choose and to live from that assumption until it becomes your external reality. Your imagination is not a mere faculty for daydreaming or fantasy. It is the creative power of God individualized in you. It is through imagination that you move between states of being. It is through imagination that you claim your good. It is through imagination that you transform your world. When you imagine yourself as already being the person you wish to become, when you feel yourself into the state you wish to experience, you are not pretending or make-believing. You are exercising the highest function of human consciousness. You are participating in the very act of creation itself. This is why the Bible tells us that God created man in his own image. You are made in the image of the Creator, which means you have the same creative power. The only difference is that God creates from the state of perfect fulfillment, knowing that all things are possible, while most humans create from states of lack and limitation, believing that their good is separate from them. But tonight you have the opportunity to change all of that, Tonight you can choose to create from the same state of perfect where God creates from. You can assume that you already are everything you wish to be, that you already have everything you desire, that you already live in the state of complete satisfaction and joy. And when you make this assumption, when you really feel yourself into this state, something miraculous happens. The entire structure of your reality begins to shift. Not through your efforts, not through your struggling, not through your trying to make things happen, but through the natural operation of consciousness itself. You see, consciousness is always externalizing itself. It cannot help but create external conditions that match its internal assumptions. This is not something you have to make happen. It's something that happens automatically, inevitably, lawfully. Your job is not to figure out how your assumption will manifest. Your job is simply to assume it and to persist in that assumption until it becomes as natural as breathing. This brings me to another crucial point. Many people assume their desired state for a few days or weeks, and when they don't see immediate external changes, they become discouraged and abandon their assumption. They go back to their old patterns of thinking and feeling, and then wonder why nothing changed. But I tell you that assumption is like planting a seed. You don't plant a seed today and expect to harvest fruit tomorrow. You plant the seed and you tend it with patient confidence, knowing that it contains within itself everything necessary for its full expression. You water it with your attention, you protect it from the weeds of doubt and fear, and you trust that in due season you will see the harvest. The same patience and persistence is required with your assumptions. When you assume a state, you've planted the seed of that experience in consciousness. It will grow and manifest in external form, but you must give it time. You must maintain your assumption even when the external world hasn't yet caught up. You must live from your desired state even when your senses report otherwise. This is what I mean by faith. Not faith in something external to yourself, not faith in a distant God who may or may not answer your prayers, but faith in the creative power of your own consciousness. Faith that your assumptions are creative. Faith that consciousness is always externalizing itself. Faith that what you assume to be true about yourself must, by the very nature of consciousness itself, become your external reality. Now let me share with you a profound secret that will accelerate your understanding of this principle. There is no time in consciousness. Past, present, and future are merely constructs of the rational mind. In consciousness, everything exists in an eternal now. This means that when you assume a state, you're not creating something new. You're claiming something that already exists in the timeless realm of being. Your desired state exists right now. The version of you that has everything you want exists right now. The experience you long for exists right now. Not in some future time when conditions are right, but right now in this eternal moment of consciousness. When you truly understand this, when you really grasp that your good already exists, and is available to you right now, you stop trying to make it happen and start allowing it to be. You stop efforting and struggling and start resting in the certainty of fulfillment. You stop chasing your desires and start living from them. This is the ultimate meaning of doing nothing. You do nothing to create your good because your good already exists. You do nothing to earn your desires because you already deserve them. You do nothing to make yourself worthy because you are already worthy. You simply assume the state of having what you want, and you rest in that assumption with perfect confidence. But here's what will happen when you truly embrace this teaching. The people around you will think you've lost your mind. They'll see you sitting quietly, apparently doing nothing to improve your situation, and they'll think you've given up. They'll offer advice about what you should be doing, what actions you should be taking, what steps you need to follow to get what you want. Ignore them. Not because they're bad people or because they don't care about you, but because they're operating from a completely different paradigm. They believe in the reality of the external world. They believe that change must come from outside in. They believe that you must do something to become something. But you now know better. You know that all change comes from within. You know that you don't become something by doing something. You do something by first becoming it in consciousness. You know that the external world is merely the shadow, and that all real change must first occur in the substance, that cast the shadow, your own wonderful human imagination. So when others question your apparent inaction, when they wonder why you're not more concerned about your circumstances, when they ask what you're doing to solve your problems, you can smile knowingly and continue to rest in your assumption. You can continue to live from the end, to feel yourself into the state of your wish fulfilled, to be the person you wish to become. And as you persist in this assumption, as you make it more and more natural, something wonderful will begin to happen. The external world will start to shift in ways that seem miraculous to others but are perfectly natural to you. Opportunities will present themselves. Circumstances will align. People will come into your life who can help you. Resources will become available. Doors will open where once there were only walls. But here's the key. These external changes are not the cause of your transformation. They are the effect of it. They are not making you wealthy or healthy or love. They are simply reflecting the wealth and health and love that you have already claimed in consciousness. They are the shadow conforming to the substance, the external world matching the internal assumption. This is why you can do nothing and watch everything fall into place. Because once you've truly assumed your desired state, once you've claimed it in the only realm where claiming is possible, in consciousness, the entire universe must reorganize itself to match your assumption. This is not a favor the universe does for you. This is simply how consciousness works. This is the law of being itself. Now, I want to share with you the most profound aspect of this teaching. When you assume a state and persist in that assumption until it becomes natural, you don't just change your circumstances, you change who you are. You don't just get what you want, you become the person who has what you want. And once you become that person, having what you want is not an achievement or an acquisition. It's simply the natural expression of who you are. This is why the wealthy person attracts wealth effortlessly. It's not because they're doing something special or following some secret formula. It's because they have the consciousness of wealth. It's who they are, not what they do. This is why the healthy person maintains their health without struggle. It's because they have the consciousness of health. This is why the loved person is surrounded by love. It's because they have the consciousness of being beloved. When you assume a state and make it natural, you become that state. And when you become that state, having the external correlates of that state is as natural as having thoughts or feelings. You don't work to have thoughts. You simply have them because you are a thinking being. You don't struggle to have feelings. You simply have them because you are a feeling being. In the same way, when you become the state of wealth, you simply have wealth because wealth is the natural expression of who you have become. This is the secret that the mystical traditions have been pointing to for thousands of years. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, stop the frantic action that comes from believing your good is separate from you. No, assume, claim, become convinced that I am God, that the creative power of the universe exists within you as your own wonderful human imagination. When you are still, when you cease the outer activities that spring from inner insecurity, you create the space for your assumptions to take root and grow. When you know that you are the operant power in your own experience, you stop looking outside yourself for salvation and start claiming your good from within. But let me address one more concern that may be arising in your mind. You may be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. If it were really this simple, wouldn't everyone be living their ideal life? Wouldn't everyone be wealthy and healthy and happy? The answer is that it is this simple. But it's not easy for most people because they've been conditioned to believe in the opposite of what I'm teaching. They've been taught that the external world is real and that consciousness is just a byproduct of brain activity. They've been taught that they must work hard and struggle to get what they want. They've been taught that they are separate from their desires and must somehow bridge that gap through action. These beliefs are so deeply ingrained, so thoroughly accepted, that most people never question them. They live their entire lives operating from these assumptions, and their experiences faithfully reflect them. They struggle because they believe struggle is necessary. They lack because they believe lack is their natural state. They suffer because they believe suffering is unavoidable. But you have been given a different understanding. You have been shown the truth about the nature of consciousness and the power of assumption. You have been invited to see beyond the world of appearances to the world of causes. You have been offered the key to every prison you have ever imagined yourself to be in. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you dismiss it as too good to be true and return to your old patterns of struggle and striving? Will you try it for a few days and then abandon it when you don't see immediate results? Or will you embrace it fully, commit to it completely, and persist in your assumptions until they become your external reality? I hope you choose the latter, because you deserve to live the life of your dreams. You deserve to experience every good thing you have ever desired. You deserve to be wealthy and healthy and loved and free, not because of what you've done or what you might do, but simply because you exist, because you are consciousness itself individualized as a human being. And consciousness by its very nature is unlimited. It is infinite possibility, eternal expansion, boundless creativity. When you identify yourself with consciousness rather than with your circumstances, when you recognize that you are the I am that exists before all conditions and experiences, you discover that there is nothing you cannot be, nothing you cannot have, nothing you cannot experience. This is your true nature. This is who you really are. Not the struggling, seeking, limited being that appears in the world of shadows, but the unlimited, creative, divine being that exists in the realm of consciousness. When you know yourself as consciousness, when you operate from this level of being, you discover that you need do nothing to have everything, because everything already exists within you. So I leave you tonight with this final thought. You are not in the world is in you. Your circumstances are not determining your experience. Your consciousness is creating your circumstances. You are not at the mercy of external forces. You are the creative power that is expressing itself as your external world. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Persist in that assumption until it becomes natural. Live from the end, knowing that what you desire already exists and is available to you right now. Do nothing that springs from the belief that your good is separate from you, and do everything that flows from the assumption that you already are what you wish to become. When you do this, when you really understand and apply this principle, you will discover that you need do nothing after this. And you will watch and wonder as everything falls into place exactly as it should. Not through your efforts, not through your struggles, not through your attempts to make things happen, but through the natural, inevitable, lawful operation of consciousness itself. This is the promise I make to you tonight. This is the truth I share with you from the depths of my own experience and understanding. You have within you right now everything you need to transform your life completely. You need add nothing to yourself. You need do nothing external to claim your good. You need only assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption until it becomes your external reality. The power is yours. The choice is yours. The life you have always dreamed of living is yours for the claiming. All you need do is assume it, and everything else will fall into place exactly as it should. This secret is encapsulated in 5 powerful words. Be silent anything that you watch them happen. Now you might be wondering, what does it mean to be silent? And how can silence possibly bring about the manifestation of our deepest desires? My dear friends, the silence I speak of is not merely the absence of sound, but a state of being, a profound inner quietude that allows the creative power within you to work its magic. In this silence, you will find the birthplace of all creation. It is the womb of the universe, the void from which all things emerge. When you learn to cultivate this silence, to nurture it within yourself, you tap into the very source of all that is, was, and ever will be. But let me be clear, this is not a passive silence. It is not a state of inaction or resignation. No, the silence I speak of is alive, vibrant, and pulsing with creative energy. It is a silence filled with the certainty of your desire fulfilled. A silence pregnant with possibility. Imagine, if you will, a seed planted in the earth. Does it make a sound as it grows? Does it announce its intentions to the world? No, it grows in silence, pushing through the soil, reaching for the sun, all without a whisper. And yet in that silence, a miracle unfolds. From a tiny seed emerges a mighty oak, a beautiful flower, or a bountiful fruit tree. Your desires, my friends, are like that seed. They do not need to be shouted from the rooftops or constantly verbalized. In fact, the more you speak of them, the more you rob them their power. Instead, plant them in the fertile soil of your imagination, water them with the certainty of their fulfillment, and then be silent. Allow them to grow in the secret, sacred space of your inner world. This silence is not about suppressing your desires or denying their existence. On the contrary, it's about giving them the space and energy they need to manifest. When you constantly speak about what you want, when you continually focus on the lack of it in your life, you're essentially telling the universe, this is what I don't have. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, continues to reflect that lack back to you. But when you plant your desire in silence, when you nurture it in the quiet certainty of its fulfillment, you're sending a different message. You're saying to the universe, this is already mine. It is done. And the universe has no choice but to conform to this new reality you've created within yourself. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this principle. There was once a man who desperately wanted a promotion at work. He talked about it constantly, telling anyone who'd listen about how much he deserved it, how hard he had worked, and how unfair it was that he hadn't received it yet. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still the promotion eluded him. Then one day he heard these very words we're discussing today. He decided to try a different approach. He stopped talking about the promotion altogether. Instead, he went into the silence of his imagination. There he saw himself sitting in the new office, felt the pride and satisfaction of his new position, heard the congratulations of his colleagues. He lived from the end, experiencing the fulfillment of his desire as a present fact. In his outer world, he continued to work diligently, but he no longer spoke of the promotion. He no longer complained about not having it. He simply knew in the depths of his being that it was already his. And do you know what happened? Within a month, he was called into his boss's office and offered the very position he had been imagining. This, my friends, is the power of silence. It is the power of living from the end, of experiencing your desire fulfilled in the inner world of imagination. For when you do this, when you truly embody the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the outer world has no choice but to reshape itself to match your intent. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this just positive thinking? Isn't this just another version of the power of positive thought? And to that I say emphatically no. This is not mere positive thinking. This is not about trying to consult that something good might happen. This is about knowing with absolute certainty that what you desire is already yours. You see, in the realm of imagination, there is no future. There is only the eternal now. When you enter into the silence of your imagination and experience your desire as fulfilled, you are not hoping for a future event. You are experiencing a present reality. And it is this present experience, this living from the end, that has the power to reshape your world. Let me explain further. The world you see around you, the circumstances of your life, are nothing more than the outpicturing of your estates. Your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, your job, your relationships, your financial situation, these are all shadows, reflections of what you hold to be true in your imagination. So when you enter into the silence and live from the end, experiencing your desire as fulfilled, you are quite literally changing your world from the inside out. You are impressing upon the subconscious mind a new concept of self, a new pattern of thinking and being. And your subconscious mind, which knows no difference between what is vividly imagined and what is actually experienced in the outer world, begins to work tirelessly to bring about the conditions that match this new self-concept. This, my dear friends, is why silence is so powerful. In silence, you are free from the limitations of your current circumstances. In silence, you are free from the doubts and fears that may plague your waking mind. In silence, you are free to be, to experience, to live as the person who has already achieved their heart's desire. But let me be clear, this silence, this living from the end, is not a one-time event. It's not something you do once and then sit back and wait for results. No, it is a state of being that you must return to again and again until it becomes your natural way of existing in the world. Think of it like this. If you were to plant a seed and then immediately after see if it had grown, what would happen? The seed would never have the chance to take root, to sprout, to grow into the magnificent plant it was meant to be. In the same way, if you enter into the silence, experience your desires fulfilled, and then immediately return to your old patterns of thinking and speaking, constantly checking to see if your desire has manifested, you rob it of the very energy it needs to come into being. Instead, you must trust in the process. You must have faith in the power of your imagination. You must know with every fiber of your being that what you have experienced in the silence of your imagination is more real, more true than anything you can see or touch in the outer world. This brings us to another crucial aspect of being silent, letting go. Once you have planted the seed of your desire in the fertile soil of your imagination, once you have lived from the end and experienced it as fulfilled, you must let it go. Release it into the hands of the universe, trusting that the same power that turns an acorn into an oak tree, that turns a caterpillar into a butterfly, will bring your desire into manifestation. This letting go is not about forgetting your desire or no longer wanting it. It's about releasing the anxiety, the doubt, the need to control how and when it will come about. It's about surrendering to the wisdom of the universe, knowing that it has infinite ways of bringing about what you desire, ways that your limited human mind could never conceive of. Remember, the universe is not constrained by what you consider possible or probable. It operates according to laws that transcend human understanding. Your job is not to figure out how your desire will manifest. Your job is simply to live from the end, to be the person who already has what they desire, and to trust in the perfect unfolding of divine timing. Now, some of you might be wondering, but Neville, what if I have multiple desires? What if there are many things I want to manifest in my life? And to that I say, wonderful. The creative power within you is limitless. It is not constrained by time or space or the number of desires you hold in your heart. However, I would caution you against trying to focus on too many things at once. Remember, the power lies in your ability to live from the end, to fully embody the feeling of your desire fulfilled. This becomes more challenging when you're juggling multiple desires. Instead, I suggest you focus on one primary desire at a time. Choose the one that, if fulfilled, would have the greatest positive impact on your life. Then enter into the silence and live from the end of that desire fulfilled. As you do this, you may find that many of your other desires naturally fall into place. For when you change your concept of self at a fundamental level, every aspect of your life begins to shift to align with this new self-concept. Let's delve deeper into this concept of living from the end. What does it really mean to live although your desire is already fulfilled? It means assuming the feeling, the state of consciousness of the person who already has what you desire. If your desire is for financial abundance, then in the silence of your imagination, feel the peace and security that comes with having more than enough. Feel the joy of being able to buy what you want when you want. Feel the satisfaction of being able to help others, to give generously. Embody these feelings so completely that when you open your eyes and return to your silent inner, if your desire is for a loving relationship, then in your imagination, feel the warmth of your partner's embrace. Feel the joy of shared laughter, the comfort of deep understanding. Feel the satisfaction of giving and receiving love freely and fully. Let these feelings permeate your being so completely that you carry the energy of love with you wherever you go. If your desire is for a successful career, then in your inner world, feel the pride of achievement. Feel the satisfaction of doing work you love. Feel the respect and admiration of your colleagues. Embody these feelings so thoroughly that you begin to carry yourself with the confidence and poise of someone who is already successful. The key here is feeling. Your feelings are the secret to your power. They are the language of the subconscious mind, the fuel that powers your manifestations. When you can genuinely feel as though your desire is fulfilled, when you can maintain that feeling regardless of your outer circumstances, you have mastered the art of creation. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but Neville, this sounds like self-deception. Aren't we just fooling ourselves? And to that I say emphatically no. You are not deceiving yourself. You are aligning yourself with a higher truth, a deeper reality. You see, my dear friends, time is an illusion. The future you desire already exists in the infinite now of imagination. When you enter into the silence and live from the end, you are not creating something new. You are simply choosing to experience a reality that already exists. Think of it like this. I imagine you are in a dark room and there's a light switch on the wall. The electricity, the potential for light is already there. It exists whether the switch is on or off. When you flip the switch, you're not creating the light. You're simply choosing to experience it. In the same way, when you live from the end in your imagination, you're not creating your desire. You're choosing to experience it, to align yourself with it. This is why being silent is so crucial. When you constantly talk about what you want, when you focus on the lack of it in your life, you're essentially keeping the light switch off. You're choosing to experience the reality of not having. But when you go into the silence, when you live from the end and feel the joy of your desire fulfilled, you're flipping that switch. You're choosing to experience the reality where your desire is already manifest. Now I want to address something that many of you may be struggling with. You might be thinking, but Neville, I've tried this. I've imagined my desire fulfilled. I've tried to feel it real, but nothing has changed. What am I doing wrong? My dear friends, if this is you, I want you to know that you're not alone. Many people struggle with this at first. The key lies in persistence and in truly understanding what it means to live from the fan. You see, living from the end is not about visualizing your desire for a few minutes each day and then returning to your old patterns of thinking and being. It's about a fundamental shift in your self-concept. It's about becoming, in your imagination and in your feeling, the person who already has what you desire. This takes practice, a dedication. It takes a willingness to challenge your old beliefs and patterns of thinking. But most of all, it takes faith. Faith not in some external power, but in the creative power of your own imagination. Remember, your imagination is not separate from reality. It is the very substance of reality. The world you see around you was once only imagined. Every invention, every work of art, every human achievement began as a seed in someone's imagination. Your desires are no different. They are the seeds of your future reality, waiting to be planted in the fertile soil of your imagination and nurtured in the silence of your being. So if you've been struggling, I urge you not to give up. Return to the silence. Go deeper into the feeling of your desire fulfilled. Make it more real, more vivid, more alive within you. And most importantly, persist. Persist in the face of every contrary appearance in your outer world. For it is your persistence, your unwavering faith in the reality of your amadat that will ultimately bring it into manifestation. Now let's talk about another crucial aspect of this process, detachment. When I say be silent, anything that you wish will happen, the silence I'm referring to also includes a detachment from the how and when of your manifestation. You see, many people make the mistake of trying to control every aspect of their manifestation. They imagine their desire fulfilled, but then they start worrying about how it will come about. They start trying to manipulate people and circumstances to bring about their desire. But this is a form of doubt. It's a lack of faith in the power of your imaginal act. True silence, true faith means letting go of the need to control. It means trusting that the same intelligence that keeps your heart beating, that grows your hair and nails, that maintains the perfect balance of life on this planet, is more than capable of bringing your desire into manifestation in the perfect way and at the perfect time. This detachment is not indifference. It's not about not caring whether your desire manifests or not. Rather, it's about being so certain of its manifestation that you no longer feel the need to manipulate or control. It's about resting in the absolute knowing that what you have experienced in your imagination is more real than anything in your outer world, and that your outer world must by law conform to this inner reality. Let me give you an example to illustrate this point. Imagine you've ordered a package online. Once you've placed the order, do you sit by your mailbox day and night, worrying about whether the package will arrive? Do you call the shipping company every hour to check on its status? Of course not. You trust that the package is on its way. You go about your life knowing that it will arrive at the perfect time. This is the kind of detachment I'm talking about. Once you place your order with the universe by living from the end in your imagination, let it be done. Trust that it's on its way. Go about your life from the state of consciousness of someone who already has what they desire. Now, this doesn't mean you become passive. You still take inspired action when it presents itself. But this action comes from a place of being, not from a place of lack or need. It's the natural expression of the new you, the you that is living from the end. Let's delve deeper into this concept of inspired action. When you're truly living from the end, when you fully embody the state of consciousness of having your desire fulfilled, you'll find that opportunities and inspirations naturally come to you. These are not actions you force or plan. They arise spontaneously from your new state of being. For instance, if you're living from the end of being financially abundant, you might suddenly feel inspired to start a new business venture. If you're living from the end of being in a loving relationship, you might feel moved to join a new social group where you'll meet like-minded people. These inspirations are your new state of consciousness expressing itself in your outer world. The key is to follow these inspirations without attachment to the outcome. You're not taking these actions to make your desire happen. You're taking them because they're the natural expression of who you now are in your imagination. This brings us to another important point, the role of action in this process. Some people misunderstand the principle of living from the end and think it means they should do nothing in their outer world. They believe that if they just imagine enough, their desire will magically appear without any effort on their part. But this is not what living from the end means. Living from the end doesn't negate action, it informs action. When you're truly living from the end, your actions naturally align with your desired state. You begin to act like the person who already has what you desire. If you're living from the end of being a successful author, for example, if you'll sit around waiting for a book to magically appear with your name, you write, you edit, you submit your work to publishers, but you do all of this from the state of consciousness of already being a successful author. You're not writing to become an author, you're writing because you are an author. This subtle shift in consciousness makes all the difference. It takes the struggle out of your actions. It aligns you with opportunities that support your new state of being. It allows you to act with confidence and certainty, knowing that you're not working towards your desire, but from your desire already fulfilled. Now, I want to address something that many of you may be grappling with. You might be thinking, but Neville, what about the evidence of my senses? How can I live from the end when everything in my outer world tells me that my desire is not yet fulfilled? This, my dear friends, is where faith comes in. Not blind faith, not wishful thinking, not faith, but faith based on understanding. Understanding that your senses show you the world that was, not the world that is becoming. Understanding that your imagination is the true substance of reality, and that what you see in your outer world is simply the shadow cast by your inner states. Your senses are wonderful servants, but they make poor masters. They can only show you what has been, what has already manifested. But your imagination shows you what can be, what is in the process of becoming. When you live from the end, when you experience your desire as fulfilled in your imagination, you are seeing with the eye of faith. You are perceiving a reality that your physical senses cannot yet detect, but which is nonetheless real and in the process of manifesting. This is why silence is so crucial. In the silence of your imagination, you are free from the limitations imposed by your senses. You are free to experience your desire as fulfilled, regardless of what your outer world is showing you. But make no mistake, this is not about denying your current reality or pretending that things are different than they are. It's about understanding that your current reality is the result of past thoughts and beliefs, and that by changing your inner state, you set in motion the forces that will change your outer world. Think of it like this. Your outer world is like a mirror, reflecting back to you your innermost thoughts and beliefs. When you change what's being reflected, your inner state, the reflection must change. It has no choice. This is law. So when your senses tell you that your desire is not yet fulfilled, don't argue with them. Don't try to convince yourself that what you're seeing isn't real. Instead, thank your senses for showing you what has been, and then return to the silence of your imagination where you can experience what would be. This is the true meaning of faith. It's not about believing despite evidence to the contrary. It's about knowing that the evidence of your imagination is more real, more substantial than anything your physical senses can show you. Now let's talk about something that many of you may be struggling with, the concept of time in relation to your manifestations. When I say be silent anything that you wish will happen, many of you might be wondering, but when will it happen? How long do I have to wait? My dear friends, these questions, while natural, come from a misunderstanding of the nature of time and manifestation. You see, in the realm of imagination, there is no time. There is only the eternal now. When you truly live from the end, when you fully embody the state of your desire fulfilled, you're not waiting for anything to happen. It has already happened in the only place it ever could happen, in your consciousness. The appearance of your desire in your outer world is not the manifestation. It's merely the shadow, the outer reflection of what has already occurred within you. The true manifestation, the real creation, happens the moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and believe in its reality. From this perspective, there is no waiting. There is only being. Being the person who already has what you desire. Living from that state of consciousness. Allowing your outer world to catch up with your inner knowing. This is why patience is so important in this process. Not the kind of patience that comes from gritting your teeth and enduring until something happens, but the patience that comes from absolute knowing. The kind of patience you have when you've planted a seed. You don't stand over it, demanding that it grow faster. You trust in the natural process of growth, knowing that in its own perfect timing, the seed will sprout and grow into a magnificent plant. Your desires are like that seed. Once planted in the fertile soil of your imagination and nurtured with the feeling of their fulfillment, they will manifest in your outer world in their own perfect timing. Your job is not to make them grow faster, but to maintain the state of consciousness of already having them. This brings us to another important point, the concept of revision. Sometimes, despite our best efforts to live from the end, we find ourselves slipping back into old patterns of thinking and being. We might have moments of doubt, or we might react to our current circumstances in ways that contradict our desired state. When this happens, it's crucial not to blame yourself or to see it as a failure. Instead, use the power of revision. At the end of each day, review the events of your day in your imagination. If there were any moments where you reacted from a state of lack or limitation, revise them. See yourself responding from the state of your wish fulfilled. Feel how you would have felt, thought how you would have thought, if your desire was already manifest. This practice of revision serves two purposes. First, it reinforces your desired state of consciousness, helping you to more consistently live from the instinct. Second, it literally rewrites your subconscious memories. Remember, your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience. By revising your day in your imagination, you're literally changing your past, and in doing so, changing the trajectory of future. Now, I want to address something that many of you may be concerned about. You might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this selfish? Shouldn't I be focusing on helping others rather than manifesting my own desires? My dear friends, this is a common misconception, but it couldn't be further from the truth. You see, when you live from the end, when you embody the state of consciousness of your desire fulfilled, you become more, not less. You expand your capacity to give, to love, to serve. Think about it. If your desire is for financial abundance and you successfully manifest that abundance, aren't you in a better position to help others? If your desire is for radiant health and you manifest that health, aren't you better able to care for those around you? If your desire is for a fulfilling relationship and you manifest that relationship, don't you have more love to share with the world? You see, manifesting your desires is not about greed or selfishness. It's about becoming the fullest, most expanded version of yourself. It's about aligning yourself with the abundance of the universe so that you can be a channel for that abundance to flow to others. Moreover, when you master this principle of living from the end, you gain the ability to help others in profound ways. You can teach them this principle, showing them how to transform their own lives. You become a living example of what's possible when one aligns themselves with the creative power of their imagination. So never feel guilty about focusing on your desires. Your desires are not random. They are the universe speaking to you, showing you the direction of your growth and expansion. By fulfilling your desires, you are fulfilling your purpose, becoming more of who you truly are. And in doing so, you naturally uplift those around you. Now, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next 30 days, I want you to commit to living from the end of your most cherished desire. Choose one desire, the one that resonates most deeply with you, and for the next 30 days, live as though it were already fulfilled. Each night before you go to sleep, enter into the silence of your imagination. See yourself in the scenario of your desire fulfilled. Feel the feelings you would feel if your desire were already manifest. Experience it with all your senses. Make it as real and as vivid as you possibly can. Then carry that feeling with you throughout your day. No matter what your outer circumstances show you, maintain the inner knowing that your desire is already yours. Be silent about it. Don't speak of it as something you want or need. Live from the state of already having it. If you find yourself slipping back into old patterns of thinking or being, don't berate yourself. Simply revise those moments in your imagination. See yourself responding from the state of a wish fulfilled. At the end of these 30 days, you will be amazed at the changes that have occurred, not just in your outer world, but in your inner world as well. You will have developed a new habit of consciousness, a new way of being in the world. Remember, my dear friends, you are not bound by your past or by your current circumstances. You are bound only by your imagination and your willingness to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. The power to change your life, to manifest your heart's desires, lies within you. It always has, and it always will.